Hey guys, this is Gabriel with GI Tech Guy, and today we're going to be doing a quick tutorial on understanding the raw editor in Adobe's Photoshop CS6. So, the raw editor is very similar to Lightroom in the fact that you're taking your photos and you're using essentially the same tools to edit them, only with the raw editor the layout is a little bit different, but to be honest, you can pretty much get the exact same things done. Uh, and for people who have already bought Photoshop, there's no reason really to get Lightroom itself. So today I'm going to be trying to help you guys kind of understand how that works, and hopefully you'll come out of this understanding it a little bit better. So the raw image we're going to be editing looks like this. I took this a few days ago. Obviously this looks a little bit different than the actual JPEG image itself, but you can kind of get the idea. So let's open up Photoshop and get started. Okay, so on it, as you guys probably know, Photoshop can be kind of a bear. There's a lot of buttons and a lot of stuff to work with, and the raw editor isn't much different. A lot of buttons, a lot of things to work with here. But once you actually get started and trying to understand this and working through that, it's really not that difficult to understand. Okay, so let's just go through really quick what these top buttons are. You can just run your mouse over them if you have it up already. Oh, by the way, this photo is going to be in the description below with the link to that if you guys just want to go through with me and editing this, and then you can, or you can feel free to use your own images, whatever. Okay, so we've got your magnifying glass. Essentially, click and drag. You can see a box that opens up. You let go, it zooms in. This is really helpful if you want to get in specifically. You right click, click fit and view. You're good. Head back. Next is the hand tool. That's pretty much if you zoomed in, use this and move around. I'm not going to go through all of these. Some of the really helpful ones is the straighten tool. If your landscape is maybe a little bit off, you can use this and kind of get an idea. Say, okay, so the ground is this way, and so when you do that, as you pull in the direction of the ground, you let go and it'll automatically crop it to that angle. Obviously we don't want to do that. Let's see, so then no, I don't want that. Thank you. Okay, targeted adjustment tool. This is used in the HSL grayscale tab, which we'll be getting to, but you can attach this to, or click on certain colors and adjust them as you want, which is really nice that you can actually control the coloring itself in the photo rather than having to go through each one here. Okay, anything else? Red eye removal. Oh, adjustment filter. Is that what it is? Yeah, adjustment brush. Okay, so this is something if you want to do some selective editing in the raw editor itself and not in Photoshop, you can do that here and adjust this stuff, which is really nice. You just essentially paint over it, and you can see what that does, and you can play around with it as you wish, and pretty much the same options as if you were doing it in in the actual editor itself. Okay, good enough. Let's get started. So I'm just going to go through the actual photo itself using some sets that I've already done, and hopefully we'll be getting a good result here. So first of all, well, let's see. Do you guys know if you guys don't know what RAW is, when you're shooting with the DSLR or even some smartphones or digital cameras, it's essentially an uncompressed JPEG, and so it keeps a lot of the the data that is lost in a JPEG. So you can pull out stuff like things out of shadows. You can, like you can see here, you can adjust temperature, exposure, highlights without losing detail, which is really nice. It's not perfect, you can't get everything fixed, but it's certainly a lot better than trying to work with a JPEG image, and I think you guys will be able to see that here. Okay, now that we're actually ready to go, let's go for it. Alright, so, okay, temperature, warming this up a little bit, tint is good, exposure, I'm going to brighten this up a little bit. Okay, brighten it up, increase the contrast. Highlights, turn the highlights all the way off. Something that's nice with highlights is you can use this to pull out blue, like a blue sky that would normally be white, because you're focusing on something a bit closer, but you can use highlights to kind of pull that blue back out without having to do it artificially. Okay, shadows. You guys can just kind of tell I'm pulling out a lot of the color right now and making this area right here, that spot right there, getting there. Okay, there we go. Just want a pen. Sweet. That spot. This is the focus of my image, and so yeah. Alright. This program's cool. Okay. Clarity can really help with this as well. And something that I would encourage you guys to do when you're actually working with this is just ramp up stuff back and forth until you kind of get an idea of where you want it, and that can be helpful to just kind of understanding what it'll do to the shot as well. And what were we at? -10, something like that. Okay. Vibrance, and a lot of these words are pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go through explaining all of it. Tone curve, this looks scary, but it's actually really nice. You just want to make sure that you kind of have a nice gentle curve, however that actually is. Let's see here, kind of like, I think what I'm going to end up doing is kind of a, whoops, I didn't want that. Let's see, there we go. Something not quite like that, but you get the idea, kind of that look right there. So if you can keep it looking that way, you can kind of see what I'm doing here. It'll make the photo look a lot better rather than drastic curves, which you definitely don't want. Okay. Something I forgot to point out. This preview checkbox up here is really helpful. You can see what you're doing with your shot as you're working with it. So, like for example, this, as you go through each of these tabs, you can see what your changes have done to it. And so as you continue, you can kind of see just continuing to pull out the color. Okay, detail. This is when you use the magnifying glass, and doesn't look like I'm too bad, so I'm just going to turn that sharpening off. And no need to do luminance, that's just noise reduction as it says here. Yeah, nothing much to say about this. Okay, hue, I'm just going to go through this really quickly. I would suggest using the actual targeted adjustment tool here to make your changes. I already know the color numbering that I want, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I would suggest doing that. just going to go through this really quick. -14. Okay. Saturation. -21. -34. -7. Okay. Next, I'm not going to do anything with split toning this time, but this is a cool effect that you can use when you're playing around with the highlights and the shadows here. It's a really powerful tool if you want to end up ever using it. Something that I usually will do is using the orange and the blue coloring here to kind of create a cool look to the shot. But in this photo itself, I'm not doing anything with that, but play around with that and I'm going. Okay, so lens profile correction. When you are taking shots, the lens will distort the image a little bit, especially like with a fisheye lens. They're known for making distortions because it's such a wide angle. Even 18 millimeter is considered wide angle, and that will distort. 55 is nearly spot on to how our eye sees things, and so you don't really have to worry about if it's closer to that, but I always turn it on anyway, and it helps kind of remove the vignette that is around the images and it kind of brightens it up. So you hit this checkbox here and then go down to the make of your, not the camera itself, but the lens brand. So I have the Canon. It automatically determined what my lens was and the profile I wanted to use, and you can see what it did there. Going from, you can see that the vignette around the edge, a little bit of distortion that happened. Okay. Just about done hitting the effects panel. So grain, I don't really know what this would be used for, but I guess if you want that noisy effect, you just ramp this up. You can increase size. Maybe that's what you would do. Just make it really big looking. I don't know. If you guys can think of something that you would use this for, let me know. But I don't know. I've been trying to think of stuff that you could use this for, and I haven't figured anything out yet. The vignette, though, however, is very, very useful, and the cool thing about it is it's post crop. So if I set this up here, and I'm like, oh, you know what, I want to crop this, I want to adjust this a little bit. I set up my crop, and it fixes the actual vignette to do that. So it's a really, really powerful tool, pretty sweet. And you cannot really do that in Photoshop, so I would suggest doing all your vignetting now rather than trying to do it later in Photoshop. You have a little more control. Well, easy control, I suppose. You always have more control in Photoshop, but their setup here is pretty good. So let's see, what are my settings here? Okay, pretty close. Okay, so 59 and -14. Alright, and then I just have this here because when I'm playing around I want to see exactly where the actual look is, and then afterwards I can kind of finish up and knowing that's how I want it, and then I just feather it out so it looks a little better. And I did a pretty serious feather here. Alright. Finally, camera calibration. So this is something that you can see in your DSLR, where you can adjust the setup for landscape or portrait or whatever, and so you can do that here as well. And I'm going to be using the landscape, but you got faithful, landscape, neutral, portrait, standard, and so it works really well. So I'm going to go through here, and obviously you can tell it looks a lot different than what I had originally, but we can end up fixing all that as we go through this. And once again, I would encourage you guys to, get pretty radical looks here, but as you kind of get in the middle, you can get an idea of what you want. So Okay, I had mine at 15, 6, negative 19, negative 43, negative 24, negative 12. Okay, so there it is, guys. That's the final image right there. And so you can see, let's look at the original. That was the original shot right there, and that's the ending shot. And of course you guys can open up this image in Photoshop itself. Let me pop that up all the way. And do all your dodging, burning, and whatever else you want to do with it. Healing brush, whatever. So, yep, that's it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to post in the comments below. If you want more tutorials like this, be sure and like it, subscribe to my channel, and you guys have a fantastic day.